The dating linchpin for Beowulf in academia, which has been the case for a very long time, has come about from a man who somehow made a connection between a character within the Beowulf manuscript called Hygelac to a recorded character, I think in the 4th century or 5th century, can't quite remember because it's utter nonsense, called Cocciolacus or Clociolacus. They've made some sort of like etymological leap, really, to jump into that, and it's nonsense. Theses have been written about how that does not stand up to examination. There are errors, like it just does not add up, and there is a literal PhD thesis explaining this. The identification of Cocciolacus with Hygelac cannot be made, but that still is the main dating linchpin for all of academia. So they use one name that has an etymological link to state it must have happened then, and that's what everyone now believes in the academic community. So we're talking about one thin etymological link that doesn't even really exist, against what I'm saying, which is that there are direct matches to these names: Offer and Offer, Wiglaf and Wiglaf, Hemming and Hemming, Eckbert and Ecktheo. So that some people, I've noticed some people say, like, you can't make it's a leap to make a connection between Eckbert and Ecktheo. It's like, no, there aren't any other Eck characters either in Beowulf or in the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle, so it's quite useful for placing that Eck prefix to their name as the link. It's quite simple. Just like, then we have to kind of like, so once we've got all of them, then you can look at Beowulf, who was clearly Beowulf in 825, Wiglaf, who was clearly Wiglaf in 827, Offer, who was Offer in 790, Eckbert, who was Ecktheo in 790, both who were exiled kings. They have matching life details between the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle and the Beowulf manuscript. Then what you have to do is understand Hemming is the Danish king during Beowulf's life in 812. Hemming is also mentioned in the Beowulf manuscript directly. That's another name. He of Hemming's race made light of that, yay. And then they go on to talk about Hygelac and Hygd. But it's by the by, it doesn't matter. We only need to know who those characters are to then understand that the dragon episode, which is like the second part of Beowulf, which really only covers about a 10th of the story, and it's added on at the end. It's a different story, and I can tell you that has been added on by the Mercians under the reign of Beowulf II. Well, how can I know that? Because Beowulf II is the Mercian king during the life of Alfred the Great. And if we follow on from Beowulf, Wiglaf, Hemming, Offer, Eckbert, we then find that 50 years later, which is what is stated in the Beowulf manuscript, but in this instance they use the idea that Beowulf lived for another 50 years to bring us into that era. But actually, I think that he died in 825 or 7, and that's how they bridged the gap. Just saying that he lived for another 50 years, and then what they're trying to say is that the Mercian kingdom were the rightful heirs to the throne of Wessex. And how we then go about working that out is by looking at the 3 brothers that are mentioned in the dragon episode, which are Herdred, Heribald and Haethcyn. And if you look at Alfred and his brothers, you find out that Alfred's brothers are called Ethelbald and Ethelred, not Heribald or Herdred. So it's the suffix to these people's names that link them up. Ethel means noble, the noble raid, the noble council, whatever. It's not the meaning, it's the name that counts here. So like raid means council, so what? It's a matching link to their names. So you've got Red and Bald and Red and Bald, and then that would make Alfred the Great Haethcyn. Haith means heath, wastes or wilderness. Cyn, C-Y-N, means king. So you've got the Wastes King. Now, you can accurately call Alfred the Wastes King during his time in the Athelney Marshes. That only occurred in the 890s. So it has to have been then that they were writing this bit of the manuscript, this extra story that they added on to the end. And we know there are two scribes that wrote these two parts. So like one scribe wrote the beginning of Beowulf all the way up to the his return from Hrothgar's Hall in Danish lands, Gotland probably. And then there's a new episode which a new scribe takes on, which is the dragon episode. That's critical because it means that there could have been a gap there, and then we can bridge that with that 50 years reference, and then you have other names that link in. So whilst academia have been using that one thin etymological link to place all of the events of the Beowulf story into a timeline, why not use 10 like, with actual direct links instead of that one thin one? The reason being is because that theory of Hygelac and Cockyolacus has become dogma. It's like a religion now, Beowulf study, and it's become dogmatic because that's what's being taught in universities. Now obviously you can't charge £30,000 to do a history degree and teach people all bullshit, and unfortunately that's what's been going on. In order to actually accept the reality of, like, the evident reality of what I'm saying, you have to accept that what's being taught is wrong. That does happen, you know, like, it does happen often. Anyway, that's really critical. That's the real key to unlocking Beowulf, and if people just want to ignore that and pretend that they know better because of, I don't know, a 2-year history degree rather than me who studied it for 10, it's up to you. But yeah, I'll stick with what I know to be true.